Let's talk about postmodernism. In my last video, I tried to explain why modernism is based, right? What is modernism and why modernism is based? So remember, the modern period is a period of time that goes from Plato up to the end of World War VI. And there are some sort of main ways of thinking. It seems like philosophy and that sort of thing, but I think a lot of peeps adopted those ways of thinking. The church condemned modernism with an encyclical called Modernism. Absolutely worth the read. I will put the link to that document in the notes. One of my favorite people on YouTube, Trent Horn, he's exceptional. The videos that he makes, he's an apologist. He made a video about the perpetual virginity of simps. Don't be a thought, don't be a simp. It's going to take at least, I think, centuries before we can look back and say, okay, those were the thoughts that won out. Those were the thoughts that had the most influence on the age. I'm sure there's going to be some people that are going to say I did not speak with the precision that I should have, but I'm doing my very best for, let's say, non-philosophers. So, not to get too adult here, but I saw, a sign the other day that said queers for Pope Pius X, and it was like, I don't know, but like those two things don't seem to go together. Karl Marx, for example, he said, you should abstain less from things like bread because bread is a much more simple, basic food that sustains you, but it's not like this big thrilling thing to eat. I think, I've certainly had bites of bread where I thought, gosh, this is the best bread I've ever had in my life and everything, right? But Karl Marx, I think for the most part, he's thinking, look, you got this, stale, cold loaf of bread that will get you through the day. You should not abstain from eating that because you need that to get you through the day. Do not start off your confession by saying, "Bless me, Father, for I have sinned." Please don't say things like, I had some bad thoughts and some bad actions. Okay, you can tell the priest what you did. It makes a difference if you stole $1 or not stole $1. How about you find $500, in the cushion of your couch, and you know that belonged to your grandmother who needed the money to buy her medicine. State clearly the sin and the number of times that you committed the sin if you can. And if you don't know how many times you committed the sin, you can always say, "Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. It's been 2 weeks since my last confession. I kicked a dog 500 times, or, I don't know, maybe a couple dozen times." Help the priest understand if we're talking about an addiction. Don't leave out important background data. Suppose you go to confess this sin where you say, I kissed my boss on the lips. It might be helpful to tell the priest that you are married, if you are married. The priest would need to know, if he's going to understand the gravity of your sin, that you are a married person. Or, don't tell me too much extra information that's not important data, right? So you may say something like, my wife and I married young, and she's 16 years old, and she's really the jealous type, and just get to the important part when you're confessing your sins, right? When you're finished with all the sins that you want to confess, it's good to let the priest know that you are finished. So you might say something like, "I am finished." Something that lets the priest know that you are not still thinking of the sin, that you're trying to remember some sin that you want to confess. The priest will then give you some words of consolation or some words of advice that might help you avoid the sin in the future, something along those lines. Expect him to say a few things to you at that point. And then he's going to give you a penance, right? Now, the penance, you should feel free to say something if it's a penance that you're going to have a hard time completing. So the priest may say something along the lines of, okay, so you stole that money. I need you to give it back and say that you're sorry. And you might say, no. I think it's beautiful. I think you don't want to miss it. I don't think you want to miss out on that. So go to confession. Find a place to go to confession. If you haven't been to confession in a long time, here's your sign. You should be going to confession. Based